Okay, I have an idea and I can't get it out of my head. And well, first of all, hi. I forgot to say hi. Okay, so listen to me. I've had this idea in my head and I keep fighting with myself because I have this idea of a Gundam, like Gunpla, anime, stuff like that. I have this idea of a Gundam, but it's covered in pinup tattoos. Like similar to plain nose art on planes where they had like the pinup girls on them. I don't know why, I don't know how I came up with this, but just this thought popped in my head and I was like, oh, I want to kind of draw this, maybe this like Gundam covered in tattoos. I kept thinking about doing it, but here's the thing, I really hate drawing non-organic shapes like cars, bikes, houses, basically like man-made stuff. So Gundams kind of fall in that realm because they're just like blocks and squares. And I just don't, it's just a lot of like lines and squares and just no. So I've been fighting with myself because I'm like, I have this idea, I keep thinking about it, I really want to do it, but also I don't really want to draw a Gundam at all. How do I not draw a Gundam but also still achieve this idea? And then I thought, well, my husband is really into Gunpla. That's how I know I don't know so much about Gundams. I was gonna say that's how I know so much, but I really don't know anything. But that's how I know what it is, because he really likes it. So he builds Gunpla all the time. So I thought to myself, Savannah, let's think about this. What if I convinced him, really, he doesn't need much of convincing, to build a Gundam and then I'll just paint pinup girls and like tattoos all over it. That way, I don't have to worry about actually making the Gundam. So I don't know if you guys are gonna like this video or not like it, because I don't think many of you are interested in Gundam, because also I'm not really interested in it, to be frank. But I like my idea and I can't stop thinking about it. And so when I can't stop thinking about something, I have to do it. It's just the way that it is. We went to Hobby Town near me and we got a Gundam and he was very excited that he could count this as a business expense. So he built this guy. He's from Mobile Suit Gundam, which I think is the first one. The reason why I picked this guy specifically, I know nothing about Mobile Suit Gundam, but I picked him because he has a lot of like big blank spots that I can paint on. And that's what I was looking for, is something that has a lot of surface area for me to paint. So I think what we're gonna do is just paint some pinups on this and see how it turns out. I have no idea if this will work or if it'll look really bad. I don't know if I've seen other people do this. To be honest, I didn't really search it up. I was kind of like, what if that? And then I just kind of decided to go do it. And that's normally how I do things in my life sometimes. So we're going to take this guy, we're gonna spray him, and then we're gonna just paint on him. I sketched up some ideas already, which I'm gonna show in a minute. Yeah, I'm thinking what we're gonna do is put something here, and like here, stuff like that. So I guess we're just gonna jump into it. My combo idea is like traditional tattoos, kind of like the Sailor Jerry vibe tattoos, but also like an air of like the plain nose art, just kind of combining them. And then also, since it's a figure, it's like a humanoid figure, kind of just covering it in just a ton of tattoos maybe. Yeah, I guess we'll do that. So the first step we have to do is spray it with Mr. Super Clear to prime it, like prep and prime it. Wait for it to dry, and then we're just gonna paint right on top. I got like paints for miniatures and stuff like that, so hopefully that'll work. So yeah, let's go spray it. So my first step with this was to just sketch out very loosely and roughly like what I was kind of looking for. I didn't really refine anything. I was just kind of putting down a vague idea of what I wanted and where I wanted them placed. I put these girls up at the top of the pauldrons, but I ended up not using them later on. I took multiple photos of different angles of the Gundam so I could kind of figure out
what and where I wanted to put things, as well as the shield, because I was going to paint on the shield. Here's a quick time lapse of photos that my husband took of him assembling the Gundam. I would never do one of these kits because it's just way too stressful, but he finds them fun. Once the Gundam was assembled, I got to sketching out my ideas. I'm using watercolor pencils on this because it was just easier to see and it's easy to remove. So I just kind of sketched out my idea, and then I went in with Citadel paints and I guess a D&D monster paint set. They're for miniatures, and I kind of wanted to try them because I guess this is, I don't know if this is considered a miniature, but I decided to try those supplies and those paint things instead of just like my normal gouache paints because I didn't know if gouache would actually work on these. They had a bit of a learning curve because they were kind of tricky, some layered differently than others, so I had to figure out how each type of paint layered. So I don't know if I'm 100% happy with how they layered, but it was a fun learning process. Or most miniature paints have these washes that you can buy that are, I assume, for dry brushing or putting like a specific layer, darker layer on top of whatever it is that you're painting. Initially, I was just mixing colors together, but then I decided to try the washes. And I don't know how I feel about the washes, but I tried them on everything and I don't know. I'm not crazy about them, but I also feel like in a way it gave it this like old painterly vibe, but again, I'm still not 100% sure if I really like using the washes. I think they're definitely meant for painting on 3D, I think, and like having it fall into crevices and darkening certain areas as opposed to just sitting on a flat surface. So I think the next time I do this, I'll probably just do regular acrylics. But I wanted to try the paints. I don't know. I felt like it could be kind of cool. They have different types of paints. There's like layer paints, which are thick and opaque like this red. Then they have the washes, which are for like shadows and stuff like that. And then they just have a variety of different types of paints for different types of things. So yeah. For lining, I just used black acrylic and then these thin brushes that I got at Hobbytown. But even these thin brushes, I feel like were not thin enough. I don't know if I'm going to have to just find some like custom tiny, tiny long thin brushes. But I feel like I need some sort of like really long but really, really, really thin brush, like 3 bristles. So I'll probably have to special order those, but I didn't want to jump the gun and order them yet, just in case, like, I finished this project and was like, I'm never going to do this again. But I could see myself maybe doing this again in the future. It depends on how I want to approach the subject again. But yeah, just a black acrylic and a thin brush. And don't forget a nice camera that keeps focusing on your fingernails instead of your art and keeps making everything blurry even though you keep adjusting it so it stops being blurry. I don't know why it keeps doing this. It's driving me nuts. So I apologize for all the blurry footage because even though I kept adjusting it to be like, focus on this, it decided it didn't want to do it. So, yep. Then I started on the next side, another space pinup girl. I opted for space girls because technically they do battle in space, I guess, and it takes place in the future, kind of. So I felt like a pinup space girl was an appropriate type of pinup to have on the side of these. I also took inspiration with their outfits from various outfits that the characters wore in Mobile Suit Gundam, but I kind of like made them a little sassier because they're supposed to be pinups. So that was why they have a lot of these little red outfits on, because that's kind of what the main guy who pilots this mech, he wears like this red uniform, so the girls are kind of inspired by that. Now with the two sides done, I'm gonna move on to the pauldrons on the front and some of the other smaller pieces. I opted to do these bombs instead of the heads that I had sketched just because I didn't want it to be like all girls, I guess. I wanted some other details and other designs on it. So I did some little stars and planets and just like small little things all over the rest of the Gundam to make it look like it was just decorated in general with lots of different tattoos, paintings, illustrations, drawings, whatever these would be called. Then I moved on to the really big back piece. I wanted this one to have some text on it because like a lot of those plain nose art illustrations had like little words, slang, just text and like a picture, and I felt like that very much gave that vibe that I was looking for. I opted for Problem Child because I think based off of the very, very quick information I got from my husband, I think this mech is the bad guy technically. So I just thought it was kind of funny. If I get any of the actual lore of Mobile Suit Gundam wrong, please know that I have never watched it ever in my life, so I know nothing about it. It was just from stuff that I was Googling very casually and then whatever my husband told me randomly. So I apologize if I get any information wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments. I feel like this is kind of a trust the process situation where when you're putting on the layers it looks really bad and awful, but then once you start putting the lines down it's like, oh, it all comes together. But also at the same time I do think that the lines are a little too thick for my liking. I need to find a better, smaller brush, and I don't know if I would use that kind of like wash paint for the skin and the clothes and stuff again, just because I feel like it didn't really work out as I imagined it would. So those are kind of my gripes with it, but I do feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just being super critical. What do you think? Do you like it? Do you like that kind of wash look, or do you agree with me? I won't be offended if you agree with me. I started lettering the Problem Child text, but I don't have it completely shot because my big fat left hand got in the way and blocked basically everything that I was doing. So just chalk it up to another problem with being a lefty. Then I moved on to the shield. I wanted to do, surprise, surprise, another pinup girl on it. And this one would have the sword that they have in the show. I don't know what type of sword it is, but I saw it in reference pictures. I know I sound like the epitome of like a fake nerd girl or whatever, but I just don't know anything about Gundams, but I still really liked this concept. And also I gave this to my husband as a gift, and he really loved it because he really, really loves Gundams. And he's watched, I think, like every single anime about mechs and Gundams and everything, so he appreciated it, and that's all that matters. My husband gave me his panel liner pen. I've never used this before, so I watched a little clip on it, and this was so satisfying. You're supposed to just kind of like dot into all of the little grooves, and it kind of pools through. It was really fun, and I want to panel line everything because it was just so fun to watch. And then my last step was weathering this. This is where the washes came through and were really beneficial and were really good with weathering, but I also kind of went a little too weather happy and I made it really, really kind of beat up. I have barely any shots of this because literally almost everything I shot at this point was blurry, and I'm very sorry for that. It is like unsalvageable. So here's just a tiny little piece. And with that, we are done, and let's move on to the glamour shots. And that's about it for this project. What do you think about it? What do you think about the final piece? I think that overall, I like it. I like how it turned out. It does look kind of beat up and weathered and like kind of like not polished, and in a way I think the way that the painting turned out kind of leaned more towards that, but in like a good way. I don't know, I was a little frustrated with the paints, probably because I was using them in a way that they probably aren't meant to be used for, but that's okay. But this was also kind of fun. It was a little different. It was a little challenging because now I'm painting on surfaces that aren't completely flat, and I have to think about how they sit on the Gundam's body, and I guess this is what like tattoo artists think about sometimes. I don't know. The weathering was really fun. It does look really beat up, but I kind of like it. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you liked this video and if you want to see me do more of this, like do more of these Gundam paintings. I don't know what else to call it. Or if you just don't really care about Gundam, that's fair too. Don't forget to follow me on all social media. I am Savannah Alexandra Art on everything. And be sure to join my sticker club if you haven't already, or if you want to. I send out new designs every single month, and you get to join the coffee and see the designs in advance and vote on the next ones. And it's a fun little surprise gift to yourself that you would get every month. All right, that's about it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope the allergies from this springtime weather don't hit you that bad. All right, that's it. Goodbye.